Okay, so, in this lecture we are going to talk about change effectiveness. The basic idea here is that how we are going to ensure that all the stages of the change has been evaluated in terms of whether it is going to ensure that the change is going to be effective or not. So, basically we need to go for some kind of auditing of the various stages in the processes through which change objective is achieved, right. So, what we are going to discuss here is that how we are going to audit and measure the change effectiveness, right. So, to start with, when we are going to examine the change effectiveness, first of all we will look into the implementation related issues, because if the change is not implemented properly and appropriately, there is every chance that it is not going to be successful, right. And for that we need to ensure these things. These are the questions that you need to ask, whether the quality of that diagnosis is correct or not. It means you need to go for some kind of diagnosis of the opportunities and threat in the environment, right. So, you must be able to diagnose the environment, especially the external and the internal environment, to identify the opportunities, the change opportunities that is available to you. Then the second point is the specification of the change goals. What specific change objectives you have in your mind and what kind of planning you have made. So, the three things that need to be audited through this is the quality of the diagnosis, depends upon scanning of the external environment, where you are able to identify opportunities and threats related to any change program. Then what kind of specific change that you want to bring about this depends upon the quality of diagnosis that you have made, and then what kind of planning you have made to go for a change. Then the second thing is that how it is being communicated down the line, because you need to ensure that people are going to accept the changes, right. So, change communication is very important. The moment you think about a change, you initiate it. So, before you initiate it, you need to communicate it to your stakeholders, okay, that we want to go for this kind of change, and this is based on the quality of the diagnosis that you have made. And then you are not going to communicate this change to your employees, but also to the stakeholders, because you need to manage your various stakeholders, because any kind of change effect will have some kind of influence on various stakeholders, not only the employees, right. And these stakeholders include suppliers, vendors, institutions which have financed the companies, because they would be asking a question that why you want to go for a change. So, you also need to convince and bring them into confidence that why this kind of change is required and how you are going to manage it. Then how you are going to ensure alignment and coordination. Alignment of what? Alignment of different kind of activities within the organization, and coordination among the people, and this coordination happens along two verticals, that is across hierarchy and across departments. So, you need to ensure that there is a vertical coordination and there is a horizontal coordination, and that is why we discussed, if you remember, the horizontal linkage model, because you need to ensure that how various departments and units coordinate with each other and how they are going to align their activities to ensure that change is successfully implemented. Then adopting management practices. Then you have to see that what kind of HR systems are there, what kind of other rules and regulations are there, which is considered fair, because if you are going for that and people think that the management is not fair enough and not doing justice with them, then probably they would not be able to accept it. Then do not adopt a very top down approach, that is what we know as heavy handed approach. Okay? Do not force them to accept the change, and that is where you need to convince them, you need to communicate them, you need to bring them into confidence, you need to get them involved in the process, right. And that is where you are going to adopt an approach or tackle the people in such a way, so that they are ready to accept the change. And then you also need to provide socio emotional support, that is very important to the people, so that they are able to move ahead from the status quo. It means the present state of affairs, and they can move to the desired state, which is related to the future, where you want to go with this kind of change. right. So, these are some of the questions that you are going to ask related to the implementation, right. So, what you need to do is you need the basic idea is that you want to review the progress that is happening and making sure that the change is on the track. Because if you do not monitor and review the change progress, it would be very, very difficult for you to see whether the change is going to be successfully implemented ultimately, right. So, at each and every you need to create milestones, and each milestones you need to see that whether you have been able to achieve the targets related to that particular change, and that is where the short term wins are important, right. So, when it comes to reviewing and keeping the change on track, you need to ensure whether change managers have communicated a compelling vision to the people or not, okay, and the goals are realistic in nature or not, what kind of goal they want to achieve. For example, if you say that you want to go for change in the technology, and this change in the technology is going to double the production, right. So, when you say there is going to be 100% increase in the production with the new technology, how compelling it appears to the people and how realistic it is. So, you need to go for some kind of assessment to ensure that the goals and objectives that you set for the change is realistic in nature. Then how you are going to manage uncertainty, because any change brings a lot of uncertainty in the mind of the people, even in the managers also. So, how you are going to manage the commitment of the people towards the change. So, you need to ensure that you provide as much information to the people, you communicate with them, so that any kind of uncertainty associated with the change is reduced, and in that case they are not going to resist it also. And you also need to manage your stakeholders, as I told you, and then you ensure that there is a sufficient coordination between those who are going to be involved in the change management process, and then you also get feedback from the people. So, if there is any impediments, any barrier, any obstacle which is coming in implementing the change can be removed, right. Then what kind of interventions are being planned, and also those interventions which are going to produce the desired effect. Interventions could be in terms of training, interventions could be in terms of managing the resistance, right. Interventions bring about a change in the culture of the organization, right. So, all these interventions must be implemented effectively to ensure that it leads to desired change. So, it is very, very important to ensure that you are able to review and keep the change on track. Moving further, what we are going to discuss is that when it comes to managing the implementation stage, this is the most important thing, because even if you have planned it well and you know that your quality of plan is done effectively and your quality of diagnosis is good, you have already identified what kind of change you need to bring, but the major problem comes at the implementation stage, because that is where resistance happens, right. That is where people have lot of uncertainties, that is where you need to get involved them in the process, right. So, the two main approaches that is adopted here is you have a blueprint related to the change program. So, you have a change management program and you need to create a blueprint. Okay. A blueprint is something which provides you an outline or some kind of guideline that how you are going to proceed with the change, right. So, it include the plan, rolling out plan, how you are going to monitor the effect of interventions, what kind of corrective actions would be required, so that the desired end state is achieved, right. So, when you are moving from one state to another state, you need to ensure that your plan is monitored, corrective actions are taken, so that you are able to achieve to the desired state, and then you need to follow the blueprint. Moving further, when it comes to implementing emergent changes, right. So, you also need to develop an implementation plan depending upon the goals and objectives of the change, right, what kind of direction it is having. So, if you are taking certain incremental steps, so you need to ensure that after each step you are going to review the process. Suppose you have identified 10 steps in the change management process, right. For example, if you look at the Kotter's 8 stage model, right. So, at each stage of this change management process, you need to see that whether that particular stage or step, whatever interventions have been taking place or have been planned, has been carried out effectively or not, and then the direction of the change from one step to another step is good enough is not, right. So, that is how you are going to implement the blueprint and then follow all the rules and regulations at each and every stage of the change, ensure that appropriate activities have taken place, and it is measured in terms of achieving the goals and objectives of the change or not. Moving further, we will look into a hypothesis which could be related with the change management effectiveness, and this is known as cause and effect hypothesis. The cause and effect hypothesis basically talks about that if you do this, this will happen. So, when we say that x leads to y, so suppose x is the cause, y is the effect, and in this case we say, suppose we say that yes, x is the technology and y is the productivity. So, we say that if you are going to for a change in the technology, it would lead to better productivity. Or say for example, if your x is the restructuring exercises or total quality management, then y would be a restructured organization which is going to be more effective, right. So, it would brings to effectiveness, right. So, when we say that we are trying to relate x with y, that is cause with the effect, right, you have to see that how the targets of the change and the interventions are related. So, you bring about an intervention, change intervention, that is bring about a change in the technology and see what happens to the productivity level, right. If a direct relationship is established, then you can say yes, the improvement in the productivity is an outcome of the change technology, the new technology, right. So, both are important, the targets for the change and the choice of intervention. You have to see that what is your target for change. Okay. So, for example, if your target of the change is to improve employee satisfaction and commitment, it means that you need to restructure your HR policy. Say for example, the kind of intervention that we want to plan, if we want to go for redesigning the jobs, right. So, whether we go for redesigning the jobs and this redesigning the job is going to provide better autonomy, challenge and satisfaction to the employees or not, and whether it would result in better performance of the employees, where they are going to have improved customer focus. So, in this case, say for example, we talk about job redesign as the cause and effect is greater autonomy, challenge and achievement of to the employees, which leads to higher customer satisfaction, right. So, you need to identify the target for the change. So, the job is designed, but it is not giving the intended result, employees are not happy and satisfied, right, there is no challenge. So, you go for redesigning the job, that is a kind of change, and if you go for redesigning the job, you need to ensure that it brings greater autonomy and challenge to the employees, and they have a greater sense of achievement. If this is achieved, then you can say that cause and effect is related. It means that the direct relationship between redesigned jobs and autonomy and challenge among the employees, right. So, accordingly, you need to review the effectiveness of the change plan, how change plan is going to be measured in terms of its effectiveness. So, what you need to do? You have to identify what kind of interventions are being implemented. Say in that case, if you are going for redesigning the job, so the redesign is a kind of intervention, right. And then you also need to see whether this intervention is going to have a desired effect. This desired effect in this case would be greater sense of achievement, meaningful worthiness of the job, better autonomy, more challenges. So, all these factors are what? Are the desired effect, and intervention is the job design, right. So, what need to be looked into is you need to monitor whether you have selected an appropriate intervention, that is very, very important, and make sure there is no resistance for this, because if you are going for job redesign, there could be some resistance from the people, because things are going to change, you are going to increase the job responsibility, or you are going to do something with the responsibilities and other kind of things, giving them more autonomy which they may not like, right, and whether there is a political support, other stakeholders, okay, and whether you have time and other resources to manage it effectively or not. Similarly, if you think that yes, there is a direct relationship, it means there is a significant improvement, it means that you have achieved the desired effect in terms of greater autonomy, greater challenge, greater sense of achievement, right, then it is good. So, you basically when we are talking about this cause and effect hypothesis, you need to ensure that whatever intervention is selected by the organization as a change program is giving intended result, and for that you need to ensure that these are not going to be hindered by other factors, right. For example, if intervention is failing, it means it is not going to provide the desired result, and then the change managers will try another alternative, a different kind of intervention, right. Now, moving further, we will also see that whether there is a improvement in employee satisfaction commitment or not, and also have a positive effect on customer satisfaction. We have taken the same example, right, where the job redesign has brought improvement in satisfaction commitment level of the employees, and also at the organizational level the customers are satisfied. So, if satisfaction is there, it has improved, it means that it has a intended effect, right. Then you also need to see that whether improved satisfaction is leading to and second level of outcome, right. So, the first level of outcome is greater employee satisfaction commitment, second level of outcome is higher level of customer satisfaction, third level of outcome would be customer retention and revenue growth, because if you are able to retain your customers, then definitely it is going to help you to generate more revenue, right. Provided you assume or you are sure that yes, employee retention has customer retention has taken place and revenue growth has happened, right. If there is no improvement, then the validity of the cause effect hypothesis is nullified. It means you can challenge it, because this it means that job redesign has not improved the intended outcomes, okay. And then you go for revising the change plan. It means that job redesign does not have impact on what you wanted to do. So, you need to do something else, right. So, implementation is very, very important. Then the next stage is how are we going to measure the performance, because you need to measure the performance of the change outcome, right. So, it should be related to the outcomes which are important for the key stakeholders, for the employees, for the organization, for the investors, right. And you need to ensure that in the cause effect relationship is embedded in the change plan. It means that okay, if you go for this kind of change, this kind of intended outcome is likely to happen. Okay. So, with this proposed hypothesis you proceed to identify the kind of outcome that you can have, and these outcome could be identified as this, where we have used the balance scorecard approach. Now, if you look at this balance scorecard approach, here the performance is measured on 4 accounts, that is customer, then internal performance, which includes basically what you called internal efficiency, then financial performance of the organization, and finally the growth, right. So, the customer performance is in terms of engagement, communication, retention, right, all kind of things. Then internal performance, those who are using the system is they are satisfied with that, right. Say for you going for technological changes. So, users are satisfied with this new technology, it is more timely, right. This is the policy compliance, the quality of is good, related to something. Then financial performance, how it is going to help you, right. Then improvement and growth, this is related to one example, and the same can be applied to any kind of change, right. Say for example, where we try to relate to the job redesign, whether customer retention has happened or not here, internal performance, whether employee commitment and satisfaction has improved or not, whether it is related to better revenue growth or not, financial performance, that related to improved productivity, right. So, you can adopt a balanced scorecard approach in order to measure the performance or the change outcomes, right. So, this is one way to look at performance. So, what we talked about is the cause effect relationship to ensure that the intended change has the desired effect, and if it has a desired effect, what kind of performance measures can be utilized to identify whether these outcomes are as intended and it is able to satisfy the key stakeholders in the organization or not. Moving further, for that you need to develop tools to help with monitoring the change plan, right. How are you going to monitor the change plan? Because you need to translate the change strategy into operational goals and related measures. So, how are you going to measure? These are the activities. So, your vision and strategy is very, very important. We have already linked the vision with the change, right. We talked about the strategy, vision, goals and objectives, Now, this vision and strategy could be achieved or realized only when you are having certain measures, right. And these measures, as I talked about it, is related to say employee satisfaction, right. So, that is one indicator that the change program is successful, then commitment of the employees, then customer satisfaction, then customer retention, then profit and growth. We have taken the same example of job redesigning leading to this. So, these are the different kind of outcome with which you are going for redesigning the job, right. And then you are going to monitor the change plan, that if you are going for redesigning the job, it means that you are going to improve task identity, task significance, you are going to provide greater autonomy to ensure better commitment and satisfaction on the part of the employees and better productivity and growth on the part of the organization, right. So, you are going to measure these outcomes and see whether it is able to help you to realize the goals and objectives of the organization or not, right. So, here the vision and strategy is very, very important, because you need to translate this strategy into these goals, because this strategy is going to help you to realize your vision that you have set for the organization. But this strategy need to be translated into goals and objectives, operational goals basically. So, these are the operational goals that you need to achieve. If you are not able to achieve these operational goals, it means that your change plan is not successful, right. Now, moving further, how we go about reviewing the internal process of the change management. Now, if you look at this, you can see different kind of indicators. These indicators suggest what? This shows the lowest progress, right, then the next stage of the progress, then this is the next stage of the progress, and this is the high level of progress. So, this shows the progress level, right. And three important things are here, like enabling change leadership, enabling and engaging people, and enabling new behaviors, right. Say for example, you are going to continue to coach and develop leaders at different level of the organization, right. It means the change leadership is not effective. Then coach leaders have to drive implementation and lead employee engagement, slightly more effective, and the progress is better. It means you are able to develop the change capabilities, the coach leaders have to lead the change and enhance performance, it means it is related to performance, and finally, you have been able to build a sense of purpose and commitment among the leaders. So, if that is this goal is achieved, it means that the level of progress of this particular change is more successful. It means that you have been able to bring about a change in the leadership quality. Second, engage and enabling people. It means if you look at this one, it means they have been able to use new skills and practices to drive momentum, it means 50% achievement is there. If it is related to managing people commitment and participation, building their skills and commitment, 75%, right. Then engaging people and managing expectations, sharing the vision, communicate the benefits, very high level of progress. And this is the most important, that we are able to identify all the stakeholders and see what their needs and motivation is there. So, this is the highest level of engagement and enabling of the people. Now, when it comes to embedding new behavior, you can see how this progress happens from low to high, right. Now, when you are going to bring about a change in the behavior of the people, you have to see whether this behavior is considered by the people and whether they are able to adopt or have a fresh approach about it or not, whether they have been able to address cultural issues and other things, and whether they are ready to accept the change or not, right, whether they are able to articulate future desired way of working and engage people in defining the required change. Then finally, you are going to assess the readiness and cultural alignment. If that is happening, it means they are ready for the change and culture is aligned, it means the progress is highest. It means people are ready to accept new behavior. So, when it comes to different kind of change, whether it relate to leadership, whether it is related to engagement and enabling people, or whether it is enabling new behavior, you can see that how it is progressing along the timelines. Okay. So, these are the milestones. So, we start with this one, then move to this milestone, and ultimately we need to reach at this stage to ensure that you have been able to achieve intended change. It means the leadership is ready, you are able to when it comes to people, they are able to understand the needs and expectations of the people and accordingly work, and here they are ready to accept the change and the cultural alignment has happened, right. So, it is very important to develop a framework, right, for review to ensure that the process, how the process of managing change is happening. And at each stage of this change process, you also identify milestones to check whether intended objectives is achieved or not, and then probably you will be in a better position to audit the change and whether it is going to be successfully implemented or not. Moving further, you also need to ensure that whether how people respond to the change. So, what kind of practices are adopted, right, when it comes to adapting behavior, right. So, it depends upon what kind of change you want to bring, right, and what is the characteristics of the people. So, on this side you have people, on this side you have nature of the change, and here how this change is going to impact the people and what kind of attitude people have towards the change. And then you need to bring some kind of realignment to ensure that the attitude and the behavior is aligned towards the change, and this depends upon what? The change management practices. So, if you adopt these kind of change management practices, it is possible that people have a more favorable response to the change. It means that they would like to see that the behavior attitude is aligned to the change. So, what kind of change management practices we are talking about, like what is the vision of the leaders, what kind of supportive leadership is there, how it is being planned and organized, are they being consulted, are they are going to be part of it, right, are they being communicated about the change, what is happening, why it is happening, and whether there is support if they are going to adopt this kind of behavior or not. So, if these change management practices are adopted, then depending upon the nature of the change and the characteristics of the people, it is possible to bring about a change in the behavior and attitude of the people. And it is going to be influenced by both what kind of attitude people have towards the change and in what way people think that it is going to impact them, right. So, this is how people are going to respond to the changes. Now, what we are going to discuss, I am going to provide some checklist to see that whether it is possible to go for some kind of audit for the change or not. So, first checklist is related to readiness for the change. It depends upon quality of diagnosis, planning and all kind of activities, right. So, there are certain questions that you need to ask and then you have to take it, and depending upon that you can audit whether you are ready for the change or not. For example, the first question says whether in the past new systems policies introduced by the management has met or not, or it is whether it is understood properly or not, okay, are greeted with resistance or it was vigorously resisted. It means this measures what? The resistance level. If resistance level is high, it means you are not ready for the change. Second, implies what is their behavior, are they innovative, independent, apathetic or convergent or resistant to change. So, as you move from here to this, it means if you are on this line, it means that you are better in terms of accepting and getting ready for the change. Then what kind of change, recent changes, how it has happened and what was the outcome of the change, whether it was successful or not successful, right. If it is successful, then you are ready for the change. Then what are the expectations of the change? It is not clear to you, then you are not ready. Not at all consistent, somewhat ready. Consistent among senior managers, but not to others. Consistent across the organizations, it means these expectations are clear to everybody. Then what people directly affected by the change, right. If you provide full description, it means then the people will be ready. So, that is where your communication and confidence is required, right. So, these are the questions which is going to provide you a checklist whether people are ready for the change, and that is how you are able to measure the effectiveness. Then the other questions are there, like what is the outcome of the change, right. If it is not defined at all, it is specifically detailed, it matters. Then what is the processes, the change process, what kind of change it is going to bring about, no change to a major change, right. Then how the problems would be dealt during the change process, right, through outside consultants, senior managers, first line managers, people directly involved. So, if you are going to engage them, then they would be more ready to the change, but if you engage outside consultants, they would be hesitant to it. Then the proposed change is viewed as end users, how end users are going to look at the change. If they think that it is good for the organization, it is crucial for the future of the organization, then the acceptance level is high, right. And if they think it is going to be beneficial to only few people, okay, then it is not going to be there. So, gradually as you move this to this, probably you will find that the readiness for the change is very high. And then top management support. If there is a high support, then it is good. Then what is the role of the top management? If they are committed, they are providing resources or not. So, all these things are going to provide you some kind of audit to see whether there is a readiness for the change by the organization or not, right. Then other questions are there, what is the performance appraisal system, okay? How it is going to be relevant for the business, how this present job proposed change is going to make difference, right, and what is the technicality of this present change, right. So, these are the questions that you need to answer in order to ensure, for example, performance management system, it is if it is important, then it is good, right. If it is directly relevant to the business, then they would accept it, right. If the proposed change makes some rewarding financially and otherwise, if they think that it is going to be linked with the reward, because if the productivity increases because of the change in technology, then there is going to be better reward, then it is going to be more acceptable. Then if it is the proposed change is similar, then they would be able to accept it with but if they find that this change is something different, then the acceptance level is less, because it is not clear to them that what kind of change you want to bring, right. We are moving to another checklist, which is managing change, and in this we are going to see that what are the points that we need to look at. The implementation plan, what kind of implementation plan you have for the change. If you have clear targets, that is good, but if it is acceptable abroad or not, then it is not good. So, you move from no targets to clear targets. Then likelihood of the project deadlines, whether you have project deadlines, if you are able to meet it, there is a high level of probability that you will be able to meet the deadline for the project, then you will be able to manage change better. Regarding day to day operations for implementing the change, and if you have one person who is made responsible and accountable, it is good, but if you are nobody is there or several people are there, then it is not good. Then how are we going to start the implementation process throughout the organization or one area or department? It is always good to start with one area and then move to other areas, but if we start the entire organization, then it may not succeed. Then how the plan is being introduced, okay? Very slow, gradually or very rapidly, almost overnight, then you have to see that which one is better. Okay. If you are going to introduce this gradually, then it is better. If you are going to introduce just by tomorrow, then it might not be good, because people may not be able to accept it. Then the people who are involved in this process, you have in a better position, or you are in a better position because they are flexible and supportive to the change, and if it is not, if there is no reason, then why they should support it. Then whether training is given, if training is given, it is good, if it is not, then not good. Similarly, you have other checklists like how the training is designed, keeping in mind the problem system, if it is there, then it is good, otherwise not. Then who is involved in the training? Only end users, then it is good. How is the change implemented change is going to affect, right? Whether it is going to allow full control by the people for the task which they perform, then it is good, then it is better, because in some cases, suppose if you go for technological changes and you are going to adopt a fully automated process where the level of control exercised by the people is less, then it may not be good, right. Similarly, managers discusses change with users, yes, you need to develop your change plan in consultation with others, and then implementation has built in incentives and rewards. So, depending upon the success, everybody is going to be beneficial, right. So, these are the checklists that is to be adopted when it comes to managing change, right. Then the other things, how the benefits will happen immediately, yes, you make sure that the benefits happen immediately. If it is delayed, then it is good, not good. Whether the benefits are going to be direct or indirect, make sure that it is apparent, clear, and it is direct, right, and the effects should be measurable. Any kind of change intended effect, you make sure that you are able to measure it in quantity terms, in terms of revenue growth, customer satisfaction, right, or outcome that is achieved. And during the change, whether people need to be included, including the effort, skill, and all kind of things. Yes, you have to be considerable, because you need to ensure that people are going to put considerable effort, skill, and then when you go for extra work if it is required, then it is going to be more successfully. And then support from the management to the people is very, very important. If you know support to excellent support, which is very important that you provide excellent support, and what kind of experience people have. If they think that there is a high level of pressure and stress during the change, it is not good. But what is good here is considerable pressure and stress during the change, that is appropriate, not this one. Okay. In some cases you will find this side is better, in some cases you will find this one is better, right. So, with this we are going to complete this effectiveness of the change, and these checklists basically provide you an idea, or you can audit whether people are ready for the change and they are going to accept it, and whether you are able to manage change effectively to ensure that intended outcome is achieved or not. Thank you very much.